Once we got over to Vietnam, we found that there was a lot to shoot besides bullets and cannons. We saw all this fantastic equipment available at the local PX stores where all the soldiers went and bought all their gear. And the first thing we saw was movie cameras all over the place. And film, Super 8 film. We'd never used it before. I suppose the closest would be home movies at home would be 8mm. But I'd never been involved, but any mug could shoot film over there because it was all the new technology of the 60s.
Mum had that when I went through Puckapunyal and took some footage there at the passing out parade. And sort of when we got home and viewed that and realising that we were going to go on into, another 2 years in the army, I thought I'd just sort of document that as I went, which would give me something to look back on. At that stage, I didn't realise that I was going overseas, so it was just something that I was going to film and keep, my 2 years in the army.
And off we went to battle with all our gear and our trusty camera. The day I got conscripted, I got a hell of a shock, really, because I thought I wasn't going to be one of those poor bastards who get called up. And my mother just rang me at work and said, the letter's arrived, you've been called up, you've got to go for a medical. I thought, oh, well, it's not really going to happen. I don't think I'll go for all this and I'll probably find there's something wrong with me. But lo and behold, I was really healthy and they wanted me. I was one of the privileged breed to be called up and go to Puckapunyal to be tormented, I suppose. To be broken and made into a real soldier.
It took a while to hit me, I think. At first, I don't think it, I realised, how awful it was going to be. But, until the day he went away, didn't see him again for a long time.
I was conscripted in 1966. Really, I could say up until the day I was conscripted, I didn't even know anything about Vietnam. I didn't know where it was, what was going on. All of a sudden, the reality was that I was going in the army. There was no protest movement, there was no moratoriums, peace movements, whatever. It was just, unless you were directly involved in being conscripted, you really didn't know what was going on. We went through Puckapunyal, which I quite enjoyed because again it was we were young, we were fit, and that was thoroughly enjoyable. But when we got to North Head, to the artillery school, it was just, well, it was called Bullshit Castle, and that's what it was. These people just, it was crazy, and I had about 2 days of this, and I rang up Dad and I said, "Get $100, Dad, I'm off." And he said, "No, stick it out, son, you'll be right," because he'd been through the Second World War, so he knew that it was just the Army's way of pulling us into line and getting us to conform. Once they thought they had us, and we'd do what they want, but it worked both ways. We realised how far we could go with the Army, and once we came to that mutual agreement, Army life was okay. It wasn't until we'd finished our basic training that we sort of had a choice of where we went, which was Southern Command or Northern Command, and Northern Command was the possibility of being sent overseas. And to my the recollection, just about everybody that I know selected to go or put in to go Northern Command, as I stated that army life is a pretty boring thing, and nobody wanted to be left, 2 years walking around camps picking up cigarette butts.
But I felt pretty good after a while and started to accept it and started telling everybody at work, because it was quite a popular thing at the time, because people were for conscription, I feel, in the 65, 66, and they almost treated you like, oh, this guy's patriotic, he's going off to fight for the government and, to stop the communist spread. The night I arrived in Nui Dat, I was with a separate group, the stragglers, and there was tents all set up for us, and they said, sorry, Stainthorpe, there's no stretcher for you, you have to sleep outside. And I just about panicked. I thought, because I presumed the Viet Cong were going to come in that night and kill us. And so I slept outside. They gave me 6-pack of beer, and just to cool my nerves, and we went down and watched the movies outside. I thought, oh, if the Viet Cong were going to come, they would have come now, because the screen was sitting there out in the open. So it was like a beacon to anybody. But I still didn't like sleeping out in the open. It was just not my idea of camping out, because it was a war zone to me, and I thought it was dangerous. But I survived the night and woke up happily next day, and they gave me a berth in the tent. I think there was 3 of us out of the 7 of us on our gun who had movie cameras, and we used to, with great excitement the day before we left, or the night we left, put the camera in a special spot so we wouldn't leave behind, because that was very much nearly as important or more important than the rifle and the other equipment, because we had to document everything, and that's what we did basically. And we'd get on the helicopter or truck sometimes and tell the sergeant, hey, hold it, go back, we've left the camera behind. And he would let us quite often go back and get it. He'd say, oh, you effing bastard, Stainville, why didn't you bloody think of that last night? But we always went back and got the camera, and one time I left my camera on a chopper, and it was the end of the world for me. I walked all around Nui Dat looking for it. I never got it back. It just flew off into the blue yonder, never to be seen again. So I went and bought another one the next day.
As soon as we took a film, we'd send it home, and because we didn't have any projectors or anything, so we really didn't know what the movies were like.